Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on Big Blue View Radio, part of your SB Nation family of podcasts. I'm your host, Ed Valentine of Big Blue View. And while we sort of while away summer, waiting for training camp, I'm joined today by former Giant Brandon London to talk about the upcoming season. Brandon, how you doing?
All is well on my lunch break. I haven't been waiting to chat with you for a long time now. We see each other all the time now, so I feel I've arrived now that I'm on the podcast.
No, you've arrived now that you have a full-time gig with the New York Post is what you've arrived doing digital content for the Post. I missed when that happened. So just when did that happen? How's that going for you?
It's first and foremost, it's going great. We started January 18th. We kind of slow started with unrolling like what we're going to do, basically just in studio stuff. But now we've had so many production meetings to where we're ready to take more a step forward in doing, player interviews outside of the studio, fan caves with not only just Giants fans, but Yankees fans, Mets fans, and also we've got pretty interesting and busy July, August coming up just in terms of shooting stuff outside of the studio here at SNY Studio. So I'm beyond excited about it. And, thank you to Paul Schwartz, who, when this gig opened up in July, I reached out to him and sent him my reel. And he brought it up to the higher ups and all. It was kind of like, hey, you guys should take a look at this kid. He's a rising star in this business. So, everything kind of happened full circle here in New York.
Nice. So, hey, let me ask you this. You've been a guy who you've been around the Giants quite a bit. You've done a lot of work, for the Giants, website, for Giants.com, over the years. And fans are going to be back at training camp this year for the first time since 2019. It's a two-part question. Are you excited about that? You excited about seeing fans back at camp? I think there's 11 or 12 practices where fans are going to be allowed in, and you've been the guy, up in the stands exhorting people and getting them riled up for the last few years. Are you going to be able to do some of that still?
Yeah, we've been going back and forth through emails and being able to talk to Christine and Don Sperling. Most definitely. When they reached out and we kind of figured out how I'd still be able to be involved with the team. Obviously, with this new job with the Post, I'm not going to be able to be as hands-on and do some of the shows and some of the things that I was doing. But when it comes to like the fans and the emceeing, yeah, that's something that I could never. I asked my agent to get that put into the contract because when it comes to something to where carving your niche in this business, the fans helped me carve my niche in this business. What was supposed to be a gig where they didn't know where it was going to go, like the lifestyle type host, turned into me not only just doing fan stuff, but like I said, being on the shows with the Bob Papas and the Carl Banks and all. So the fans really helped me carve my niche in this business. And it's something that, regardless if it's Giants, NFL, or even, I do stuff with the Premier League Soccer Club, Chelsea FC, their American content here. I'm big with the fans as well. So I'm glad the fans are going to be back. I'm getting in shape. I'm getting my lungs, training my lungs, because I understand I'm going to have a lot of emotion. I'm going to be yelling and screaming a lot with the fans. But you know what? At the end of the day, man, we all got through this pandemic together. There's been a bunch of people on Twitter, a bunch of fans on Twitter being able to yell and scream on Twitter. So now it's going to be great to have them out and be actually yell, scream, get excited, at practice at Quest Diagnostics Training Center.
Yeah, and you and I both know it's a different vibe. It's a different energy. It's a different atmosphere when there are people out there, and instead of just practice. It doesn't feel like training camp without fans.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you talking about the new regime coming in. I think Coach Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen, I think they need to see the fans come out, and they need to hear, and feel that energy, because they've been around the building, and you see with Strahan saying he set Coach Dable up to talk with Jimmy Johnson and all. You can kind of understand like what's it like to be a Giant, what's it like to be a professional coach, but not until you get around like the fans, the blue collar, diehard Giants fans, I believe is what they're going to be able to take away, and they sit there and like, man, these people really come out. Like these people are they really bleed blue down here. So that's going to help give them help them with a grasp of understanding not only the players, but just the fan base as well. So I think it's going to be great. A lot of people are excited about the new regime. So that's why, I'm getting ready, I'm a hydrate at those days and all that. I am on the mic, but we're gonna turn it up. We're gonna turn it up for
standing in front of the mirror and just letting out some screams and holding your breath and getting in
learning
shape.
How to project from the diaphragm. Like, let's go Giants.
There you go. Yeah, we haven't heard one of those at a Giants practice in a long time. Hey, as I was thinking about, having you on the show, I was thinking about Kayvon Thibodeaux. And I was thinking about all of the talk about Kayvon Thibodeaux and his off-field interests and his desire, which is pretty obvious, his desire to set himself up long-term, maybe for a media career or maybe, for whatever he wants to do, post NFL. And I was thinking about you, and obviously you weren't the 5th overall pick in the draft, but you're a guy that has taken his NFL career and launched a media career. And so I was thinking about Thibodeaux, and the question is, are you concerned at all about all this chatter about Kayvon Thibodeaux and his outside interests, maybe taking away from his focus on football?
I mean, not at all. I think that I honestly, I think that's the laziest narrative that the media, sports media, projected and put out there during the offseason. When we're talking about grading a guy, and you're talking about Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll, the Giants front office, from Ronnie Barnes and the athletic crew to the people who run background checks, they scrubbed this guy and they looked to see what red flags there were when it came to this guy. And there was never a red flag of what this guy, his opportunity outside of football and what he likes to do. Keep in mind, this is what he majored in college. So here's a guy like me. I used to get in trouble at UMass all the time because I would skip class because I'm telling my coach Don Brown, I'm not going to sociology class. They wanted me to do theater because they're like, he would actually imply himself to this. So this is what this guy wants to do. And this is something that's his passion. Why would we give him any sort of flack for that? He's shown that he is the 5th pick and was possibly could have been the number 1 pick. So when it comes to his athleticism and what he can do on the field, he's proven that already. That's why he was a top 5 draft pick. So I think people need to sit back a little bit and really realize, like, this is what these athletes are doing nowadays. This is what's going on, whether you call the Draymond Green new media. But instead of going out and just people being lazy, like, oh my gosh, he's worried about that kid. What Michael Strahan told me my rookie year, I'm sitting in a hot tub with him. It was Fridays. He always used to get in the hot tub before Friday practice. I had so many opportunities to model and do all this stuff in New York City. And this is as a practice squad guy. What Strahan told me, always take care of the football, always take care of inside the lines. And that's going to that'll take care of itself. So now that, Kayvon has hijacked my mentor, Michael Strahan, I'm sure Strahan is telling him, I'm sure his agents and the people around him are telling him, hey, you take care of that football, it's only going to make it easier for you to get into TV or whatever it is. So I'm not, by no means am I worried about him, or if he's not going to perform well, or if he's going to have these, or if he's not going to be focused on football. I think I'm more concerned with, let's say he is doing it. Let's say it's the first year. Let's say he's a little first year NFL injury or first year, he's not coming along. He doesn't have, 10 sacks in the first 10 games or whatever. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about his mental and how he handles that, because they're the fans and the media, Ed, are going to jump on and be like, oh, well, he's doing his podcast on Tuesdays for what? He should have 10 sacks on Sundays. That's what I'm more worried about. If he can kind of weather the storm and continue to just progress, continue to allow himself to get better 1% each day and stay locked in on that football goal, rather than allowing the outside noise to kind of seep in and take away from his on the field dominance in that sense.
Yeah, I hear you, because I think that just all of that speculation, whether it's justified or not, sort of sets up a narrative. If he doesn't do well, it sets up he's not focused on his job narrative. Mm-hmm. And I find that, to be honest with you, although maybe we're guilty of it at Big Blue View a little bit too, I find that to be odd, because how many years and how many retired players have we looked at and we've said that guy had no plan when he, we look at, that guy's got a sad existence and that guy's really hit hard times, and he had no plan when he quit football, or when football, when he was cut, and now, what is his life? So I find it's a weird juxtaposition for us to criticize young people who are setting themselves up for a full life and not just a football career.
Yeah, Ed, you've been around. I mean, this is New York. This here is the Mecca of basketball. This here is just where players want to play in terms of growing their brand outside of their sport. So you've seen athletes come through here, Ed, not only just giants, but you've seen guys with personality. And as long as you take care of on the court, on the pitch, on the football field, then you're going to get opportunities in the media. I mean, you just look at the Chris Cantys, the Tiki Barbers, like those guys took care of business on the field. They had personality while doing it. And now look, Tiki's got his own hit radio show. Chris Canty does Canty and Alan Hunt, and he's all over ESPN and all. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I get it. Giants fans, I'm not going to tell any Giants fan like what to think or anything, because they've been Giants fans before me. They'll be Giants fans long after me. I get it, but we are also at that point where it's just like, just let the kid can ball and do a podcast on a Tuesday, then let them be. Let it be. Let that play out, because OBJ was a rock star both on the field and off the field. Now OBJ is gone because of the narrative of, oh, he wasn't there, or he was too flashy. But again, the reports came out from the teammates. Man, that guy's a great teammate. Man, I always used to tweet, yo, he's the first one out on the jugs, one of the last one off the practice field a lot of the time, most of the time, getting in that extra work. So again, it's on us, the media, sports media, New York sports media, not to get lazy and just try and clickbait and use that narrative. Because if you're going to put, oh, he did a Tuesday podcast, he only had half a sack on Sunday, make sure we're tweeting, first one out at practice the other day. Hey, he stayed after when Justin Tuck was at practice and they worked hand drills and all that, because that means a lot. That means that he may not have this monstrous rookie year, but if you see that he's still putting in that work on the field after watching film and those reports are coming out, why are we going to jump on the kid? Why are we going to jump?
Right. Hey, let's switch gears. We could probably talk about Thibodeau for an hour. I'm sure we could, because I got a million other questions. But as we record today, it's Wednesday afternoon, and this at Big Blue View, it's sort of Daniel Jones Day. We've been doing we do profiles of every player on the 90-man roster. Our profile of Daniel Jones is up today. There's a second story on Jones up today. And the basic question with Daniel Jones that I'm asking comes down to this. At the end of the 2022 season, is Jones going to have shown the Giants enough that they're willing to go forward with him as their quarterback? Or are the Giants going to be in the market, in the draft market, most likely, for a new quarterback, come next off season? So really, that's kind of the focus of where we're at with our question. So for you, where do you stand on Jones at this point?
I stand at wait and see. And that's not me trying to tiptoe the line or anything like that. But when I was out at, day 2 of the mini camp practice and just getting a chance to look at, that was my first time in the facility all year, since taking this New York Post job. And I'm watching the jog through and I'm seeing Saquon lined up off to the right, outside as number 1 receiver, motioning in the backfield. I'm seeing Saquon in the slot. I'm seeing different guys put in different positions. And I'm like, where the hell am I? This does not look like the Giants offense that we are accustomed and used to seeing. So just seeing that alone and what Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are bringing to the table schematically, I feel as though that now it's time to truly judge Daniel Jones off of having what type of seasons he's going to have with creativity within the offense. Number 2, can his weapons stay healthy? Again, it's another thing where it's like, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley. I know Giants fans are sitting and they're praying for their health. Not only, obviously, if you want guys to stay healthy and all, because again, this is another thing. All right, now with guys healthy like that and with weapons, what's Daniel Jones going to do? On the other end of it, offensive line. It looks as though they've addressed the offensive line. It's still wait and see on what that offensive line going to be like. But Daniel Jones with protection, what's he going to look like with protection? And to me, Ed, that's the biggest thing to me. That is the biggest thing. Seeing what he's going to do in the offense, to where, like Golden Tate said, his hands may not be like strapped. He may not have to just have one read or go here, go there. You see what Kadarius Toney said the other day, how the offense is much like Florida's offense, how you don't have to run the route. That's right there on the paper. There's so many adjustments and reads and all that. And remind me of Kevin Gilbride's offense, man. Mike Sullivan, receivers coach Mike Sullivan, during my time, used to always be like, Belun, take your pencil out and draw in the subtleties of that route. It's not that in route doesn't just go in. Versus cover 2, stem hard inside, get vertical, you go in. Versus 2 man, you bang it in hard for 3 steps and then bang it back out. There's so many different subtleties to this offense in the route running. Now it's like, okay, let's see what they do, and they can put together a full package of offense. So sorry to go so long-winded with that answer, but it's a wait and see on how he takes this information and this new offense, puts it together with hopefully healthy weapons, and hopefully he's protected. And that is that body of work, that what he does with that body of work that's what's going to need it, because we're talking high level money. You're talking about giving to the face of the franchise in New York City. So it's a prove it year for Daniel Jones, and I want him to go prove it for sure.
I hear you. And it's one of those things, I looked at it over like a 10 or 15 year period of time. And I always talk to Dan Hatman of the Scouting Academy about the NFL's ability to draft and develop quarterbacks. And everybody wants their quarterback to be the quote unquote franchise guy. They want him to be the Pro Bowl guy. They want him to be the top 10 or 12 quarterback in the league. If you look at the hit rate on quarterbacks that are drafted, it's about 30% of those guys who actually become that sort of Pro Bowl player. So for me, I absolutely can't blame the Giants for I want to say turning over every stone, for going as long as they possibly can with a guy, because circumstance matters. Yep. The fact that he's on his 3rd head coach, his 4th offensive coordinator, the fact that he's never really had healthy weapons, that he's never had a really good offensive line in front of him, those things all matter. Nobody's expecting him to turn into Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. And if they are, then they're being unrealistic. Absolutely. But does he have the talent and the ability to take advantage of what's being put in front of him and win games? Yeah. But I absolutely can't blame the Giants for going as far as they can before starting over.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that people were arguing about on the Twitter spaces and all. Ed. So if people, the fan who don't have access to Quest Diagnostics, if they're arguing about it, then John Mara definitely sees that. He's hands-on with the offensive line coaches and the coaching as well over the last couple of years. So if the fans see it, then he saw it. And we've also seen some good things in Daniel Jones. The one thing I'm hoping for this year, someone emerges as a deep ball threat. I'm hoping either it's Darius Slayton, whoever it is. I want him to go back. I wish we would have kept John Ross or he would have stayed around, because I wanted that speed. I wanted a guy. Daniel Jones to me is at his best when he has the option to sling the ball down the field. So I would like a receiver to emerge as that guy, because I feel like that's going to open things up even more with this offense. But again, yes, this is the year that he is going to be evaluated, and rightfully, and when I say evaluated, tough grade. It's going to be a tough grade. I think the Giants are going to look at this like, all right, on paper, it looks as though you got everything you need now. Hopefully people stay healthy, line holds up, blah, blah, blah. Everything right here. Now go out, because we want to give you this check. We want to give you this bag. Go out and get the bag. That's basically what they said. Go get the bag, Daniel.
You mentioned wide receivers, and obviously that position is near and dear to your heart. And you mentioned the name that I want to talk about some in Darius Slayton, but you also talked about, deep ball and all that. And that is one of the reasons why I'm hopeful that Kenny Golladay is healthy. Golladay may not be a burner per se, but Golladay in his time in Detroit made a living on those 50-50 balls downfield. Those are the plays that a guy named Hakeem Nicks used to make for Eli Manning. Those are the plays, you put the ball up believing that your wide receiver, who may be covered on film, isn't really covered simply because of who he is, because he's got the physical ability to go up and get that ball. And that was missing for Jones last year. I'm hopeful that that's there with Golladay this year. Just, your thoughts on Golladay.
We're going to turn that 50-50 ball. We're going to call that Gala get it balls. Gala get it. You gotta go get it. Gala get it. And that is, that kid's hungry, man. Like, he's really quiet, really soft spoken, but the kid works. He really works. And being able to see what he did with Matthew Stafford in Detroit, going up for those balls, getting hit while reaching at his highest point. I wondered if there was anything wrong with him last year, because there were times where he'd go up and just his hands would be here, instead of going up at 6'4", 6'5", and always get it. Plax used to jump on me all the time in practice. You're 6'4", go rebound. And so I wonder if that's something was an element or something that possibly he just couldn't go up for it, rib or whatever it was, but I would like to definitely see that from him for Daniel Jones, because if it isn't that speed threat that can just blow the top off of the secondary, then being able to get that one-on-one with him, or whether it's, you just throw it up there, you've got that type of confidence in him. I think it's going to be a big year from him, not only just with the health standpoint, but just putting plays on tape, because we're talking about the amount of money that he was signed for. You're talking about that and a new regime. It's like, now you're playing, if you want to be a Giant in the future, but other teams are watching as well, and other teams are watching. So this is going to be a big year for Kenny Golladay in the Gala get it balls.
I like that. Gala get it. I like that. I'm going to have to use that. Hey, another wide receiver question for you. You look at that room and you've got Golladay, you've got Shep if he's healthy. You have Kadarius Toney, and there are questions about Kadarius Toney, but there's no denying the talent. The Giants brought in Wan'Dale Robinson, and I think they showed us all spring the reason why, with the type of offense that they're going to run. But the guy that I really need to ask you about is Darius Slayton. You mentioned Slayton as a potential deep threat. I'm not banging the drum for this to happen, but I have questioned the entire offseason whether or not there's a spot for Darius Slayton on this 53-man roster. Maybe because of the money that he makes, because of the players that they have as other options that might be cheaper. Just your thoughts on the last couple of years with Darius Slayton and on whether or not he can and should still be a big player for this team.
Well, obviously, it was a down year, for him last year. He got a case of the drops, and that happens throughout receivers throughout their career. It's how do you respond from that? Do you mentally get that out of your head? And he's going into a season again. It's another prove it year for everybody. It's a make or break season for guys. And if he wants to be around as that deep threat and that he showed that he can be his rookie year, then this is going to be a huge year for him. I see him around because when you look at that offense and you look at the receiver room, he's still the fastest guy in there. Where's the speed? Where's your speed guy? Kadarius Toney does have speed, but he's not your down the field type blazer that'll blow the tops off of the safeties. So when you're talking about opening up shorter intermediate routes for the Kadarius Toneys, for the Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, when he comes back healthy, you're going to need somebody that's going to keep those safeties open and honest, kind of like how the Chiefs had with Tyreek Hill. Now I know that's a different type of speed, but at the same time, you need a burner on the field so people will respect it. So I say that, you keep him. He goes through training camp and he has has a really strong training camp. He's a guy that Daniel Jones has shown confidence in throwing the ball to. So you can't just automatically erase that and be like, oh, we got this new guy, where it's like, all right, they've got to develop a new type of chemistry where that ball is going to be, hey, I'm going to put it out this way with the safety there, blah, blah, blah. So he's a guy that, hey, it's a prove it thing. New offense. There's be an opportunity for him to catch deep balls, blow the top off of some defenses. I think he could have a huge year in the yards per catch category if he comes down with them this year. And again, another guy that's hungry.
All right. Another one to ask you about is Saquon. Just quickly, we know what he was in his first year. We know what he was in his second year when he was still healthy. He hasn't been that guy for a long time. Do you think he can still be that guy that he was in 2018, or at least something close enough to it, to be a guy that the Giants want to keep around for the next, 5, 6, 7 years or whatever?
When you say that guy from his rookie year, remember, he was the offense, like when do you want your running back catching 90 plus balls?
Right.
I want as a receiver, I'm like, how's a running back got more catches than at least 2 or 3 of the receivers in this receiving core, in this receiving group. So
right.
if we're trying to use that as the 90 something,
that wasn't right. That wasn't necessarily a good thing, because I think a lot of those were 3rd and 15 dump offs where here we just throw it to Saquon and pray that he can do something.
Exactly. So that's not, so I see him being something close to that. I see 40, 50 catches out of that backfield, or, out of the backfield for him, but 40, 50 substantial catches. And then Breida gets some substantial catches. Cause again, these backs are moving around in this offense. So who knows what, as to me, I'm looking at it like a kid in a candy shop, but we just don't know what it's going to be just yet. So I see off of the pass game part of it. Yeah, he's definitely going to be that guy, or at least close to that guy. The run game part of it. We saw some runs we saw spurts last year. We saw some spurts and it was like, oh, you got excited about it. And then there'd be like a negative 2-yard run, and then just a 2-yard run. But we saw a lot of spurts coming from Saquon. And again, it's another thing with him. This offensive line is going to be huge. We've been talking offensive line for quite some time now. This offensive line have some continuity to it, some consistency to it. Daniel Jones could be this. Saquon could be this. The offense could be this. This has to be that year that the offense, that we have a top, at least 12 offensive line, because then you get the most out of your skill position guys, so he can be that guy. He can be back. But again, it's just another one of those things where it's hopefully that offensive line stays healthy. There's continuity to it. And then bam, that's when we really get to evaluate him.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I feel better about the offensive line because I think they've got the two young bookends at the tackle spots. And I think that it was interesting. I think that what Joe Schoen did is he got that bookend to go with Andrew Thomas. And it's not necessarily throwing darts at the middle, but what he's done is he's collected a lot of guys who have played a lot of football and been at least competent, veteran players that have played a lot. And I think you can piece together a middle in that way. So we're always at this point where we want to be optimistic about it, but I think I think it's okay to be optimistic about this group.
Yeah, because when we've been talking about our offensive line, I mean, you look at it. Weston Richburg went on, got paid, is doing well in San Francisco. Justin Pugh doing well in with the Cardinals. Kevin Zeitler doing well with the Ravens right now, I believe. So it was one of those things where we're individually looking at these players and we're like, oh, he's not doing this, or he's not doing enough. We need stronger offensive line. But that's still a 5-man unit. That's still a collective unit, in that sense. If these guys are going off and having success in other places, it's not the player, it's the schematic of it. So it's, again, let's bring in guys who have played some ball to go with those bookends. The communication aspect is going to be there, having those older guys with, some tread on their tires, with some wear and tear on their tires, to be able to teach these guys how to navigate these roads and all. So again, yes, I'm with you on the sense where it's like, it's still wait and see, but at the same time, it's like, I think I can really look in the mirror at myself and be like, oh, the Giants really addressed the offensive line this year.
With the 7th overall pick, I think that's addressing the offensive line with a good offense, with a good right tackle. Hey, let's close up with this. I get asked all the time, what's a successful season? What's not a successful season? What numbers do you judge Daniel Jones by, and this and that? And I say, look, it's more about the eye test. It's more about what you see. You can't say it has to be 9 wins. It has to be 10 wins. It has to be whatever. And it has to be, 35 touchdown passes or whatever. But, so it's not really a question of what, what's the baseline that's a good season or not. But what I tell people is, look, you'll know it if you see it. And I think, we've had false starts before. I mean, Joe Judge's press conference 2 years ago when he was introduced sort of fired up everybody. It's like, oh, we finally got the guy, and he's, he sounds great and this and that, and it just didn't work out. But what I tell people is, look, you'll know it when you see it. And my feeling right now, as we sit here in July, awaiting training camp with a new GM, new head coach, new offense, pretty good draft class, my feeling is it's okay for Giants fans to be optimistic. It's okay for you to feel like maybe we've got the people in place that'll help this thing finally get turned back in the right direction. As a former player, as a guy now in the media, sitting here looking at this, from a different angle, do you feel the same way that it's okay for the fan base at this point to feel good?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they do feel good right now, but I still get why they're still somewhat reserved in a sense. I mean, this fan base has gone through it, the last decade. Let's be honest, let's be honest. Like, no one's my key card's still gonna work at Quest Diagnostics if I say that. So I look at it in a sense where there's so many question marks when it comes to individual players and collectively as the roster as a team. If the Giants are still competitive in the NFC East in January, one game out, maybe, someone goes to the playoffs, someone wins the division because Philly beat somebody or didn't lose to somebody else or something. That would be, to me, that is the baseline for success. Being competitive. We at least have to be competitive at the end of January in the NFC East when it comes to possibly winning, stealing a spot in the playoffs or winning the division in that sense, because the division isn't that strong. Yeah, Philly got stronger, but at the end of the day, that's still a rivalry game and anything can happen. And but yeah, I think I get the excitement, and also on the other side, I get the boo birds or the negative Nancy's who are like, oh, we get excited every year. I get it. So it's just one of those things where it's like everybody now, for the sake of our sanity, is best just to ride in the middle of the road. Just take the middle lane. Don't get off on the exit yet. Don't be speeding up on the left yet. I'm staying in the middle lane. My hands at 10 and 2. My nice little Volkswagen on the way to MetLife Stadium for some Giants football because I want to be safe. I want to be nice and safe.
Are you driving the speed limit, Brandon? You driving the speed limit?
I'm driving a little under the speed limit, Ed. Like, I'm gonna be really safe, Ed. Like, my seatbelt's buckled. I got my phone on do not disturb, so I can't be bothered by any text. When it comes to the Giants football this year, I'm in the middle of the road, and I'm just like, you know what? If the time comes where I need to, hit the gas and let's go, then it is. And then when that time comes, hopefully that time doesn't come where it's October and it's like season's over, where we got to get off on the exit, but it's just one of those. It has to be like that, especially being someone who's been in the facility, who you feel all the excitement. And then come October, November, no one's talking to anyone in the facility. No, we can't do this fan piece anymore because we're 100 games out of first place or whatever. You know what I mean? So I've seen our productions, Giants TV productions, kind of shut down and scaled back in mid-October. So it's no knock on anybody, and everyone's, oh, you former player, you should be excited. Right here, 10 and 2, Ed. And my some nice calm classical music going on in the background. Not even a Kadarius Toney rap song blasting. I'll wait for that when it's time to go full speed ahead.
All right. Good advice for Giants fans. Hey, before I let you go, just let people know where they can hit you up on social media, where they can see your work, what you got going on.
At social media, at Brandon London TV. Make sure you check out BrandonLondon.com too. I need to update that, but you can check out the work on at New York Post Sports on Twitter, on Snap. They do Snapchat as well, and also a lot of this stuff goes up in SNY.TV. So please, and NewYorkPost.com/sports. You'll see all the content we do on there attached to the articles. It's been going great. We're looking for some fan caves and all, not only for my Giants stuff, but for the New York Post and all. So Giants fans, if you've got a cool fan cave, I'm the man to hit up, and can't wait to see you all out there training camp. Get ready, because it's going to be a show.
All right, and we appreciate you taking a couple minutes with the ever expanding Brandon London media empire to rule over. So thank you much for taking some time, Giants fans. Thank you as always for listening. Please remember to subscribe to Big Blue View Radio on all of your favorite podcast applications. Like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching us there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.